Hey everybody, Brandon, Blake. We're joining y'all today from the Garden Groove studio.
That's right, here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Here in East Nashville. We're doing a little behind the song breakdown of a song that we just recently put together and put out into the world. Our cover of Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden from the Super Unknown record. A song that we did in memory and honor of our friend John P. Smith. We're huge music nerds, and we love to dive deep into songs and how they were created, how they were made. Mm-hmm. And so we've got a Logic session with the stems from the song as they were before we sent it to mix. And we're just going to kind of break down the parts today and just dive in to see all the little details, all the little nuances of what we put together.
And all the Easter eggs.
All the Easter eggs. So many Easter eggs. So we had Jay Hall mix this song. Mm-hmm. Fantastic mix engineer. And then we had the Hit Lab master it. But these stems are the way that they were before we delivered to mix. So if you kind of look on here, we've got everything color-coded. We've got all the drums in pink. We've got the bass guitar in yellow. We've got the intro electric guitars in green. We've got the rest of the electric guitars in purple. The guitar solo in sky blue. The lead vocals in orange. And then the effect vocals in purple. So we're just going to kind of start it from the top and just talk through it. So here is the intro of the song. So right here, we've got an EBO going with the rhythm guitar. They're panned left and right. The wild thing about this, whenever we were kind of doing our research on how Soundgarden originally recorded this song, the intro was recorded on a guitar that had one string on it, played with an EBO and with a slide. So there's like three things going at the same time. It took me a little bit of time to actually get it nailed.
I think that was the last thing that you worked on.
That
was
was
like pretty much like it. I don't remember how many takes it took you to do that, but it took a while.
I think it was like maybe 52, 53. Like
Yeah.
No lie, no joke. Here is what that sounds like on its own. It sounds super cool. It took me forever to get that part.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be the song without it.
Well, and fun fact, before we did all of this, it was in our documentary that we posted already, but that is actually John's EBO.
Yeah.
We actually we accumulated some of his gear for this project, but there was a couple things that wasn't mentioned. This was one of them. Was the EBO.
Yeah.
So that was pretty special too. To use that.
The Leslie guitar part that comes in on the verse right here. We originally were going to use a pedal for this, but Smokestack actually had a Fender Vibratone. And man, nothing sounds like this. It's just so creepy, so ominous.
It is cool. Can you explain to somebody what Leslie guitar means?
So
if they don't know.
A Leslie cabinet, traditionally speaking, were always paired with a Hammond organ. A Leslie cabinet is like literally a wooden cabinet that's got a speaker inside it that rotates. And the speed of that rotation ramps up, slows down. On an organ, it's controlled with like a little switch. Mm-hmm. But sometime in the 60s or 70s, guitar players figured out that they could modify these cabinets and play guitar through them, and it sounds awesome. So Fender ended up doing their own version of it called the Vibratone later. Stevie Ray Vaughan used the Vibratone pretty extensively, so it was pretty cool to play through the actual piece of gear. So probably my favorite part of this whole song is the drums. I'm just gonna solo. I'm gonna solo all the drums out from the top. It's just so huge. So this is in the main room at Smokestack. Blake playing. Probably the secret sauce, though,
Is the room mics.
is the room mics. We got a little bit of lexicon verb mixed in with a couple rooms going right here, an M49, a U47, and then a little track that got titled Drum Barf. Just kind of a gnarly, distorted, compressed mic. But put everything together.
Sounds massive.
Sounds massive. Here's the bass. I could just listen to this all day. What did you use on this?
Well, it was usually when you go into the studio, you kind of have your own ideas of what you're gonna bring, because and since this is our first time going to Smokestack, we kind of knew going in like what gear was gonna be there, but so for the bass, I brought in my Geddy Lee Jazz bass because they're pretty hot active pickups, but when we plugged it in, it wasn't the sound. And that's kind of the hard thing about just growing up as a musician. You kind of learn, like, you fall in love with your instrument and you love it for what it is, but maybe come into terms with, if you're trying to find a sound and your favorite instrument isn't the sound, you need to find something else. So that kind of sucked in the moment. But however, in the studio they had it was a P bass, but I don't remember what year it was. I think it was just like a normal P bass. Just you pick up a Guitar Center. I don't remember.
Yeah,
what
I think it was like an
an
MIJ P bass. It had flats on it.
Yeah, I think it was this kind of. I think it was a hybrid. I think it was like a round flat thing. But anyway, took that off of the wall and plugged it into an Ampeg 8x10 and cranked it, which is fun.
Rock and roll, man.
What was the bass amp?
I think
was
it
it just
just
just a classic?
It was just like a 70s SVT classic. I mean,
and the track's really compressed. The bass is really compressed. So that was something that we were trying to nail as close as possible.
yeah. Here's the amp on its own.
A lot of whole notes.
And then mix it with the DI.
Which I think our DI was going through the console and stuff. It was going through,
which was an old SSL console. Honestly, getting to record in that room, which this was kind of something Blake and I both had a revelation on. We've done a fair amount of recording in our lives, but, with kind of the limitations of recording in an apartment or, in a basement of a house or whatever, you do a lot of stuff in the box.
Yep.
You use, digital software instruments and amp emulations, and
which are great tools. Like, we've made a lot of cool demos doing that, and
Yeah.
that process of getting your demos out from here to here quickly is amazing to do that.
yeah.
But
actually getting to go into a proper studio with properly mic'd up amps and drums and vocal mics, like, we both were just so thrilled and kind of reinvigorated to record music the way that we love on, like, the records that we grew up on, if that makes sense. Like, all of our favorite albums were 4 or 5 people getting into a room and doing it in real time and not splicing stuff up in the machine, and which there's a time and a place for it. I don't want to get on too big of a soapbox, but man, there's nothing like rocking a real amplifier, like, mic'd up, moving air.
there is nothing like it. This is why these studios exist and why they cost so much, and they have all this vintage gear. And I mean, for the musicians and sound engineers listening to this is like, duh, like, this is what you do. But
it had just been a while.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of guitars, here are the rhythm guitars on the chorus. So we had a 69 Les Paul Custom into a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier solo on the left, and then we had one of John's Les Pauls into a Marshall JMP.
You can just hear the bite in that Marshall when you just that mid range crunch.
I mean, both of them together. It's It's just so cool.
I can just listen to that all day.
Yeah.
It's mean. It's so mean.
Sometimes the stems might not do it justice, but man, being in the room whenever that is going is just so much fun.
If you're watching this, please use headphones. We probably should have said that from the beginning,
Yes.
but use headphones to listen to this.
Yes. Moving on to verse, or actually, let's go to chorus too. So,
well, this is actually a fun thing that there was a lot of prep in this, but one of them we had to alter how like our tuning.
Yeah.
We like the song is, well, was it sharp or flat?
It's like it's kind of in between.
It's not like a whole step down. It's like it's a half right in between.
Yeah,
or something like
we
that.
had to
like,
recalibrate a couple of our tuners. We used it was a Peterson tuner that was in the studio that I think we went sharp 24 cents.
Yes.
So it's not quite A flat. It's not quite A.
No.
Obviously, there's a lot of chromaticism in this song, so the key center kind of moves around. But
which was a challenge with like the Boss, because it's like what tuner was gonna make it right, like a Snark or a Boss or the Peterson, but trying to get all of this tuned wrong.
Yeah.
Was actually kind of fun, because there was obviously with the song there's like the tape warble. And like, you know, there's that give and take of when it was actually cut or printed to tape, which and the speed of the machines that, you know, that kind of have that.
So like upon our research into recording this song, we got some old versions of like Modern Drummer magazine and Guitar Player magazine that came out in the early 90s whenever the Super Unknown record came out. And you know, we were matching like amplifier settings and what drums were used and what microphones were used and outboard processing. And something that we found out in that process was the tape at the very, very end, after it had been mixed, mastered, everything. They had actually taken the master and they had sped up the tape a little bit, just to give it a different lift, kind of, you know, the micro tuning sometimes of songs, which is very evident on like a lot of older recordings. It's
very common. A lot of hit songs did that. Like they did all that all the time. They slowed down and sped up stuff all the time.
Yeah. Continuing through the session, so there's a few more guitars that kind of come into play on the second chorus going into what I would consider the bridge. So here's some of those. This is the only virtual guitar track in the whole song. Recorded this afterwards. Les Paul custom again, this time through the J&P. And the rhythm guitars are still going. And then the solo comes in. The first solo. I'll play that on its own. A lot of craziness going on here. And then the introduction of the riff. It just was John's telly through an octave pedal. Back to the solo.
That's my favorite part of the whole thing.
So,
yeah, you need to explain what in the world what is that?
There is a lot of craziness going on here. So, the rhythm guitars, it's still the Marshall J&P, the Mesa Boogie, dual rec, still using the 69 Les Paul custom, and then John's blue Epiphone Les Paul. Mm-hmm. Whenever we get into the solo section, so kind of like Blake mentioned earlier, you know, after John passed and after his memorial service and everything, we were helping his parents, John and Christina, go through a lot of John's assets and belongings, and he was an avid guitar player and vocalist and instrumentalist, and they were very kind, his parents, in letting Blake and I take ownership of some of John's gear, and that was a huge part of us putting this song together, was using his instruments and his amps, his pedals, his mics, and so on this solo, we took his Marshall JCM 2000 combo amp, little 40-watt 1x12. We put it in the live room where the drums were, and man, I just
cranked it.
just cranked it. I ended up playing a different Les Paul, Gibson Les Paul, I guess custom shop burst, and then I had John's amp cranked up, and I just used a bunch of different pedals. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I definitely used it was like a full tone wah, the XTS Boss modded EQ, the kind of crazy like ramping up and slowing down.
Yeah, what is that?
It's a little secret setting on the Boss DD20. There's a mode on there. I don't want to give away all my secrets, but
Well, don't. But just it's on that pedal.
Yeah.
So if you want to find it, go
it's
for
on that
it,
pedal. And then in the effects loop had an Echo Sex 2 and an Omni reverb, and kind of all that just created this huge kind of watery sound. But even whenever I was approaching this solo, I didn't want to try to do it like Chris Cornell.
Well, you can't.
Or sorry, like Kim Thale.
Yeah, you can't. But what was fun about this was John, when he played, he would go for like crazy riffs and like stuff up high, and would have all these like effects and stuff, which would sound like what is going on, but it was really. It was so. I told you, I was like, just act like right, just like act like you're act like John playing that, it was fun.
It was a really cool moment. It was probably my favorite moment of recording the song.
And that's one pass. Like when you're doing all that weird stuff, you did obviously multiple takes of it, but
yeah,
that like ramp up and everything, it was like, I'm glad that we chose that, because you can't replicate craziness like that.
Yeah,
and it was perfect.
Which kind of leads us to a moment here. So whenever we originally did the documentary for this song,
we recorded it in September.
We did it in September
of 24,
and we had the idea of trying to integrate a piece of John into it, even beyond the gear.
Yeah.
There were some clips of him playing Black Hole Sun, and some like little live iPhone videos that Blake had taken at shows and stuff, and we ended up taking it a step further. Really, Blake took it a step further. I don't know if you want to talk about kind of the verse 3 section right after this solo.
Sure. Well, so during all of this, when John and Christina were kind enough to have us come over to their house and go through John's equipment and helping them out with that, I know John, like, we're musicians as well. Like every musician has a hard drive of music. Even the best of the best, like, have music that we've never heard of. And so I knew it was important to take what he created and be able to hopefully give life, and just kind of go through it and just listen and kind of like reflect on the stuff that he created. And there was, I didn't really know if there was going to be anything of him actually singing Black Hole Sun, because he enjoyed it, and I was like, maybe on his hard drive on his computer there was a slight chance he may have sung it. And so we went in and we recorded this, and then I went back to Wichita and I copied his music off of his computer, which, thank you, John and Christina, so much for not only that, but everything about this. But anyway, I went through it and I didn't find anything. But John and I actually have a separate podcast. We were talking about, this was several years ago, kind of when AI and ChatGPT were kind of like new in like public headlines and stuff. And we talked about just the craziness of technology and what it allows you to do. And I remember we were talking about the Beatles, and they did the Now and Then. It's a short documentary on YouTube, but they took one of their old recordings, and they weren't able to use it because John Lennon was recording it. It was this old tape. It was like this old cassette tape of just John Lennon at his piano, and they always wanted to do something with it. But now that AI was introduced, they were able to split John Lennon's vocal and the piano. And we were talking about that, and it was like, that's so amazing what technology can do.
Yeah.
And I just had the idea. I was like, well, if John were still here, he would have loved that we would have done this. And so I didn't really know how to do this, but basically make an AI vocal of John singing,
Yeah.
which, like anything with new technology, you just kind of have to figure it out. But it took me 2 days, and when you go online, I mean, there's funny ones that we've heard, like Mickey Mouse singing, like "Don't Stop Believing," or just there's random funny things.
Thank you, TikTok.
Yeah, thank you, TikTok, for a huge waste of time. But what I ended up doing was since I had his hard drive, I went in and I grabbed about 3 sources of John's isolated vocal. And I found this website after dumpster diving, and it was called Revocalize AI. And what it allowed you to do was to like make a model of a voice. And so alongside us going down the whole Black Hole Sun deep dive, we had Chris Cornell's isolated vocal as well, which is really cool. Really cool to hear that.
A lot of similarities between the way John sang and the way Chris Cornell sang.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's honestly what made John's vocal work. Really, it did, because he had the quality of Chris Cornell. So what I did is I put it in to the Revocalize, and it made an AI version of John. It's his voice, but then once I had that, I was like, okay, here's this source of Chris Cornell, make it sing. And honestly, it was pretty incredible to hear it, because this sounded just like John.
Yeah, here's John's vocal, the AI vocal on verse 3.
Hang my head, drop my fear, till you all just disappear.
Man, it's still so wild to listen to this.
Yeah,
Like,
because it sounds just like John. It's incredible.
yeah. So right out of this verse 3, I want to go back up to the drums.
Yeah.
So this is probably your favorite moment of the track, if I had to guess.
Yeah. Well, so for people that don't know, John and I, we were in a band together back in Wichita, and yeah, we helped each other record our own music and went to each other's shows and stuff. And so John, when he was working on his album, I played the drums for him, and it was a lot of fun because our styles are so different, and that's what made it fun, having 2 different worlds that you could kind of like meld together. But years ago, I think it was like 2018, I did like the first batch of songs, and then right before I was getting ready to move to Nashville in March of 22, in that like little, honestly, this time, like January of 22, he was like, dude, I have some songs that like I really want you to play on before you head to Nashville. And I was like, oh my goodness,
Just cram it in the calendar.
Cramming it really,
Yeah.
I was like, man, good grief. So I'm so thankful that I did that, because we had a lot of fun. And his single, which he named his album after, is called "Steal the Sun," and I actually helped co-write this song with him. And there's a drum fill that I played in his song "Steal the Sun," and I'll play it for you right here so you can hear it.
Steal the sun. Till you all just disappear. Black hole sun, won't you come?
Yeah, this drum fill, man, is just it's just so
Yeah.
cool.
Black Hole Sun's so iconic, and there's a lot of very iconic drum parts, so I was trying to do my thing with it, because I mean, we had to. It's like you can't completely replicate the song.
Yeah.
But when it came to this part and John enters the track, I was like, it'd be cool to have like a little like, if you know, kind of moment.
An Easter
but
egg, yeah.
An Easter egg, yeah. And I love that with songs, and so it was the same drum fill that I did, and it worked. I was glad it worked, because
Yeah.
if it didn't work, it wouldn't have felt right. But
Something else too that I just remembered. So Jay Hall, shout out to Jay Hall, who mixed the final version of this song. Jay Hall also mixed a lot of John's material. He did John's Steal the Sun record, the one that Blake played on.
Yeah.
That was kind of also something else we wanted to retain too, is reaching out to Jay to work on this, and
he did a phenomenal job.
He did a phenomenal job. Anybody who needs serious mixed work in Nashville,
yeah.
he's not paying me to say this. In fact,
No,
we
he's
pay
not.
him. But Jay Hall,
And we had
knocks out
Hit
the
Lab
park.
master it, which
Yeah.
if you're gonna have a song,
Yeah,
Hit Lab is the way
Nathan
to go.
Dantzler.
These are not sponsored ads.
and
I
and
promise.
Harrison Tate, man, they both
Yeah.
crush it over there. So we're gonna kind of go into the outro of the song. One little selfish thing, I'm so stoked on these little guitar slides right here going into the final chorus. Just so huge. It's just, you can just hear the air being moved on that 412.
My Kemper does the same thing.
Yeah, of course it does. So, kind of diving into the vocals a little bit. So we really tried our best to match what was originally done. It was Michael Beinhorn who engineered a lot of the Super Unknown record, and Chris Cornell used like a Neumann U67 and a Neumann U47, kind of just depending on the track, and they really heavily compressed it. Did a lot of kind of overdriving with like an 1176 going to tape. I ended up using, I've got a Peluso 2247 that we use for all the vocals. And so here's kind of what Blake's vocal sounds like on the end. Just hear this vocal processing.
Black hole sun, won't you come and wash away the rain? Black
Then
hole
adding in John's
sun,
vocal.
Won't you come? Won't you come?
Then adding in mine.
Black hole sun, won't you come?
So all three of us end up singing together at the end. I take the first verse and chorus. Blake takes the second verse and second chorus, and then John comes in on the third. But then we all are singing together on the final chorus.
Here, play the rest right here.
And wash away the rain, black hole sun.
Harmony comes in.
Won't you come? Won't you come? Black hole sun, black hole sun.
Yeah, let's get to this part.
Yeah, so the effect vocals that take it out into the sunset.
Yeah.
So in kind of the same fashion of which we used John's gear, we also used John's vocal microphone that he used to gig with. Just a
A black Sennheiser.
Sennheiser, I think it was just a 935, just a real simple vocal mic.
Yep.
But shout out to Zach over at Smokestack. We ended up kind of nerding out, going in the weeds a little bit. We plugged this microphone straight into the SSL console and ran it through some kind of wacky processing. We ended up diming out like a Neve. I think it was like a Neve 1073. We just maxed out the input gain.
Yeah.
Ran it into like an Eventide. I think it was like H3000 maybe.
Yeah.
And we just kind of got we kind of got wacky with it. So here are the effect vocals. It alternates between me and Blake, and we just did this in the control room. Like, it was screaming loud,
Yeah.
and we just went for it.
And how it's panned is exactly how Super Unknown is panned as well. When they do the Black Hole Sun, it's panned hard left, hard right.
Yeah.
And so every time it goes hard left, like, we trade off and you can hear it.
Yeah.
But it starts off with Brandon.
So here's what this sounds like.
Black hole sun, black hole sun, black hole sun, black hole sun,
Super gritty, super wild.
Yeah.
black hole sun, black hole sun, black hole sun, black hole sun.
And all the while,
It's so wild.
the other vocals are going on top of it. So here is my vocal, Blake's vocal, John's vocal, and the effects vocals all hitting on the outro.
You come, black hole
won't you come?
So cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I
Only in a studio you can just belt as loud as you can, you know? Can't really
Yeah.
do that in an apartment.
I know. Kind of one last thing I wanted to hit on here. Just the very, very ending. It goes back to the riff, and man, this is probably my second favorite part of the song. Is the ending like snare drum flam thing that you do. So here's just everything on the outro. Just you can just hear it like
You hear the room.
you hear the room, but it's like it's almost like a collective breath. Like everyone's just like da da da. It one more time. This is one of my favorite parts. I know it.
Yeah,
it doesn't do it as much justice with just the drums, but
Right, when everyone's in together.
whenever everyone's doing it together. Got some nice feedback at the end.
Yeah.
Coming right here. I think it was on the EG solo. Yeah, it was on the EG solo lines.
Which this goes for a long time, but
Yeah.
we had to cut it for a pop song's sake, I guess.
Another little Easter egg. We used one of John's guitar pedals for this like really choppy tremolo part right here on the ending.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, he had an old Line 6. I think it's called the NM4. It's like the big blue one. It looks like the big green delay they used to do, but
Yeah. I also mentioned this in the documentary that we released, the snare drum.
yeah.
They do. I said, or we both said that they don't make that snare drum anymore. They do.
Yes.
Maybe the snare drum that they have at Smokestack is from that era.
Yeah.
But they do still make that snare drum. I thought that they didn't make it anymore, but I just wanted to put that out there.
a little bit of fact checking.
Yeah.
Which man, here's just the snare drum.
Well, you got to put the room in it.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
room
it
mics
feels
too.
good. There it is.
Yeah. It's just like a shotgun.
It's so loud.
Yeah, it's
so
an
loud.
8x14, and
Yeah.
I mean that was such a signature thumbprint of the song, like a sonic thumbprint. It wouldn't be this
Yeah.
song without it.
I feel like the snare drums, just a little side tangent. I feel like the snare drum for any song is what makes it iconic.
Yeah.
Because when you just hear, like in your head, you could probably hear like Superstition, how it starts like that breath that snare drum has.
Yeah.
It's like the same with this
Or even
song.
Rock
It's like,
With You.
Rock
Like,
with They're the snare drum. It kind of prints. It's like I don't know. It imprints its icon.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to say that, but I was super thrilled with the drums on this.
Yeah.
It was
I think we're just super thrilled with how this whole track turned out.
yeah.
It obviously
It was fun. It was great.
it was a ton of fun. It was a kind of a reawakening of maybe an older school approach to recording that I think Blake and I are going to carry forward in our own projects and our own material.
Yeah.
Once again, shout out to Paul and to Zach and to the staff over at Smokestack. They were so awesome to us and very accommodating for us wanting to go in and really recreate such an iconic song from the bottom up with John P's honor and legacy in mind.
And thank you, John and Christina. We love you guys very much.
Yeah, we love y'all.
But this was a great way to honor our best friend.
Yeah,
To with some rock and roll.
I know. So the song's available everywhere you listen to music: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube.
Yep.
Go and check it out. Add it to your playlists. And we'll talk to you guys soon.